A jury awarded Planned Parenthood and its affiliates over $2 million in damages in a trial regarding the Center for Medical Progress undercover investigation into the abortion business. After a 6-week trial in San Francisco, a jury found that the Center for Medical Progress investigators violated federal recording laws. The jury awarded Planned Parenthood nearly $2.2 million in the abortion giant's federal civil lawsuit against the Center for Medical Progress. The Center for Medical Progress released a series of undercover videos in 2015 alleging that Planned Parenthood executives sold the body parts of aborted babies to researchers for profit. Planned Parenthood denied the allegations. In a statement, Center for Medical Progress founder David Daleiden said the verdict sets, quote, a dangerous precedent for citizen journalism and First Amendment civil rights across the country. Joining us now from Ventura, California is Katie Short, Vice President for Legal Affairs at Life Legal Defense Foundation. Katie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Katie, tell us what happened in this case.
Well, most recently, on Friday, this past Friday, the jury came back with a verdict against all the defendants in the Planned Parenthood's litigation against David Daleiden and the Center for Medical Progress. There were 7 defendants altogether, including David and CMP, and the jury returned a verdict finding everyone liable on everything, regardless of whether there was evidence that various people had been involved in various aspects of the project or whether various recordings had even taken place. The jury just marched through the verdict form, yes, 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 right down the line, and also awarded damages of almost everything that Planned Parenthood wanted, not all, but quite a bit of it.
Katie, the jury found that the defendants violated federal recording laws, but you argue that isn't actually the case. Can you explain?
Yes, the federal recording law is a one-party law, meaning if you are a party to the conversation, you can record without the consent of other parties. However, there's an exception when the recording is made for the purpose of committing a further crime or tort. And there was no further crime or tort. The purpose of the project was to record and then to release those recordings to the public, to inform the public about what was going on behind closed doors at Planned Parenthood. And there was no further crime there. But Planned Parenthood sort of did a backflip and said, well, the purpose was to further the RICO conspiracy that they say had started 3 years earlier. So it didn't make sense, and we argued that to the judge, but the judge allowed the jury to decide that issue. And even though we tried to explain that there was no further crime, the jury, again, just marched through the form, yes, 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 yes.
And what are some of the pieces of evidence that you feel were overlooked or ignored in this trial?
That's probably one of the most significant ones, that again, there was no evidence of a further crime to support that claim. Also, just going through the various recordings, Planned Parenthood had to show that those people were recorded, as Planned Parenthood employees, as people who were speaking on behalf of the corporation, who were targeted because of that, because they could reveal internal matters. But the way Planned Parenthood presented its case, it presented a lot of videos with no sound. It presented very short clips that you couldn't tell what was going on. And yet, in spite of that, again, presented with a verdict form, jury just said yes, yes, yes to everything. Even though, there were recordings on the verdict form, recordings of people who had never even been identified in the trial, names that they had never seen before. And yet they said, yes, that person was recorded too.
And what kind of precedent does this verdict set for the First Amendment rights of investigative journalists?
Yeah, a very, very dangerous one, because primarily the notion of fraud being the way it is used. David Daleiden, as he said many times, CMP complied with all applicable laws regarding, recording and trespass and things like that. But the notion of fraud, that you can fraud is when you trick someone and harm them, make them lose something. You sell shares in a phony gold mine or something like that. In this case, although undercover journalists do use misrepresentation to get the information, to publish it. And in this case, the judge allowed the jury to award damages for calling that a harm to Planned Parenthood when people reacted to videos. And when Planned Parenthood said, whoa, we better stop that from happening again, so we're going to put in these procedures and we're going to consult people, very expensive consultants. And he allowed those to be counted as damages. So from now on, an undercover journalist who misrepresents himself, as they do, to get a story, all the person who was tricked has to do is say, oh, well, then I went out, I spent lots of money to make sure that didn't happen to me again, and the journalist would be liable.
And what are the next steps in this case?
Well, we are going to be filing post-trial motions to attempt to rectify some of the things that the jury did, where they were finding liability where there was simply no evidence. That's the first step. And then the second will be an appeal to the Ninth Circuit.
Katie Short, Vice President of Legal Affairs at Life Legal Defense Foundation. Thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Joining us now in studio is Mallory Quigley, Vice President of Communications at the Susan B. Anthony List. Thank you for being here, Mallory.
It's great to be with you, Dr. Gracie.
Mallory, what's your reaction to the verdict?
Yes, well, it certainly is an absolute travesty that this verdict. I mean, citizen journalists have been doing this from the beginning of time, and all of a sudden, because it's the abortion industry, they're getting special privileges. I mean, it reminds me so much of the case of Dr. Kermit Gosnell. The grand jury in that case said that they thought the reason that the brutalities and atrocities going on inside that clinic went unanswered for so long was because the subject was the political football of abortion. And I think that's what we have here with the abortion industry getting special privileges. But this Judge Orrick, he's stacked the decks against David from the beginning. He should have recused himself. He's got ties himself to Planned Parenthood. His wife has been very vocally pro-abortion, and there was all sorts of things just over the course of these weeks that were putting, stacking up negatively against David.
And Mallory, remind us what the Undercover videos uncovered.
Yes, well, so it's hard to forget in a way. I mean, these videos really shocked the conscience, I think, of our nation, showing Planned Parenthood employees and others in the abortion industry, these people at these so-called fetal tissue procurement agencies, very graphically talking about the destruction of unborn human life, haggling over the price of organs, talking about, manipulating the abortion procedure to yield an intact baby's body so that they could, the vivisection to extract these intact organs, because of course the more intact they are, they'll fetch a higher price on this black market. It was truly shocking and a rare concession from then Planned Parenthood president Cecile Richards. She had to address this head on, saying, apologizing for the language used by some of her employees.
And the Senate Judiciary Committee and the House Select Panel on Infant Lives made 13 criminal referrals to the Justice Department after their investigation into Planned Parenthood and others in the abortion industry. Did anything ever come from this?
Yes, well, it's important to remember that David's videos are what prompted those congressional investigations. So clearly, Congress, the United States government thought that what the videos revealed was worth investigating, and absolutely right, 13 referrals to the Department of Justice. The committees can't comment on ongoing investigations, and neither can the Department of Justice. We just have to trust. It's really a pray and wait situation, that our allies in Congress did their due diligence to put forth those referrals. And we hope that this most pro-life administration in our nation's history is taking this seriously. So it's a wait and pray situation.
And what more do you think lawmakers can do?
Yeah, well, we have to remember that President Trump has done, he's gone so far in taking action against the abortion industry and to stop taxpayer funding of abortion. And if he were to, say, lose re-election next year, we know that Congress, a pro-abortion Congress, we have pro-abortion leadership in the House with Speaker Pelosi, would seek to reinstate all the taxpayer funding that they've so far been cut off from, you know, the $60 million with the Protect Life rule, the expansion of the Mexico City policy, which impacted the abortion industry at large. So we've got to stay focused on the congressional ways through the law, through the legislature, that we can stop the involvement of, you know, you and I and taxpayers across the country, our participation in the abortion lobby.
You know, the Susan B. Anthony list has said it is proud to stand with the Center for Medical Progress. How can our viewers help?
Yes, I think that David needs so many prayers right now. You know, this decision by the jury, the fines, it's really, it must be terrifying for him too. So I think to support him with your prayers and to take the silver lining from the trial, which is all of the additional information that came out. You know, the former abortionist that testified on behalf of David saying, yes, Planned Parenthood does alter the abortion procedure in a way that leads to babies being born alive. So take the stories that have come out of the trial, thanks to Troy Newman and others in the pro-life movement, and share them. Let's not let this have been in vain. We need to continue to promote everything that David's done, the sacrifice that he and others on his team have made for those years that they were undercover, and in the aftermath with these legal proceedings.
Mallory Quigley, Vice President of Communications at the Susan B. Anthony list. Thank you, Mallory.
Thank you.